Hey guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below, let me know what you think. Now let's get into today's video. Hey guys, thanks for joining me here on another episode of Crossing the Line. We'll get straight into this story here today. The train derailment in Ohio and the subsequent massive chemical explosion, fire and disaster, whatever you want to call it, has left a mushroom cloud flying over the state of Ohio, especially in a village called East Palestine. Now, on February the 3rd, a train derailed in the village of East Palestine, setting off evacuation orders, a toxic chemical scare, and a federal investigation. In early February, a train carrying toxic chemicals derailed in eastern Ohio, igniting a fire that swept the town of East Palestine in smoke. Fearful of a major explosion, authorities carved out an evacuation zone, then carried out a controlled release of toxic fumes to neutralize burning cargo inside some of the cars. Residents feared for their health as concerns have mounted about the effect of the derailment and the fire on the environment and the transportation network. Here's what we know. What happened around 9 p.m. on February the 3rd, a train derailed in eastern Palestine, Ohio, a village about 4,700 residents about 50 miles northwest of Pittsburgh. About 50 of the train's 150 cars ran off the tracks en route to Madison, Illinois, to Conway, PA. The train, operated by Norfolk Southern, had been carrying chemicals and combustible materials with vinyl chloride, a toxic flammable gas being of most concern to investigators. A huge fire erupted from the derailment, sending thick billowing smoke into the sky over the town. Residents on both sides of the Ohio-Pennsylvania border were ordered to evacuate as Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio raised alarms about the possible explosion. Local and federal officials started an investigation that involved the National Transport Safety Board and the Environmental Protection Agency. Now, you can see some of the attempts to stop any chemicals getting into waterways there, obviously not working, because I've seen plenty of footage of animals dying off, fish dying off, and just the water looking like absolute garbage. I don't know whether that's normal for this town there, but it looks like a semi-rural town here in America that should not be having a massive mushroom cloud hovering over it, you'd think. But they thought it would be a good idea to blow up or burn off one of the cars that was full of this vinyl chloride. And I don't think it went too well. They're saying that it's done everything that they expected it to do. So they expected it to do this. They expected all of these chemicals to come spewing out and burning off like that. I don't see how anyone, like, I've worked in a mining industry, and you work around massive amounts of toxic chemicals like that, especially like caustic soda, gases, petrol, whatever, oil, crude oil. And under no circumstances would any sort of plan be to blow up that chemical or burn it off. You do not do that I've ever known any sort of chemical spill where they decide, okay, we'll just blow it up or we'll burn it off. That's never been in any sort of, I don't know, swims or JHA or whatever you want to do, take fives, where you do the mines or work out in some conditions like that. You don't just go, oh, well, if all else fails, we'll just blow it up. I mean, what kind of engineer has decided that that's a good idea? I don't get it. I don't see where anyone's thought about that. That can't have been their first go-to. I mean, blowing up a train carriage full of, was it vinyl chlorine? It sounds deliberate to me. Like, I mean, the whole thing sounds deliberate. Has there been any harm to the environment? The derailment has sparked concerns about air, soil, and water pollution. On February 10th, the EPA said there was about 20 rail cars reported to have been carrying hazardous materials, chemicals including vinyl chloride, butyl acrylate, ethyl hexyl acrylate, and ethylene glycol monobutyl. That's pretty good. Either were known to have been and continue to be released into the air, surface, soil, and surface waters, the EPA said on February 12th. The EPA, after monitoring all the air, it had not detected contaminants at levels of concern in and around East Palestine. Although residents still may smell odours, working with Norfolk Southern and Columbian County Emergency Management Agency, the EPA has screened the air inside in about 290 homes on February 13th and said it had not detected vinyl chloride or hydrogen chloride, which can cause life-threatening respiratory issues. An additional 181 homes were still awaiting screening, the agency said. Fearing an explosion, the authorities held a controlled release of toxic materials from 5 train car tankers on February 6th, and the contents were diverted to a trench and then burned off. I don't know about you, but any of the footage that you see that doesn't look controlled to me. Working with chemical spills and spills of that nature, probably not to this extent, but nowhere has anyone ever thought we'll just burn it off. That is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. No company, like I'm talking like like massive mining companies, to BP, to Rio Tinto, to things like that, they don't just burn it off. They have a massive litany of things they have to go through to clean it up. You suck it up into trucks and then drive it off and dispose of it properly. You don't burn it off, especially when it's in the middle of a populated town. Jesus. Precautionary measures were taken in the wider region. The West Virginia subsidiary of the American Water, which provides water services in 24 states, said on February 12th it had not detected any changes in the water and its Ohio River intake site, but installed a secondary intake on the river in case an alternate source was needed. The subsidiary, which serves more than 500,000 people, said it also enhanced its treatment process. Just after the derailment, about 1,500 to 2,000 residents in East Palestine were told to evacuate the area. Schools were closed for a week along with some roads. Norfolk Southern said it had donated $25,000 to help American Red Cross set up shelters and deal with the influx of people. On February 6, Mr. DeWine extended the evacuation order to include anyone in a 1 by 2 mile area surrounding East Palestine, including parts of Ohio and Pennsylvania. One of these evacuees, Ben Ratner, told CNN that he had members of his family had been extras in 2022 movie adaptation of the 1985 Don DeLillo novel White Noise. In that story, a train derails and spills chemicals, causing an airborne toxic event that forces the evacuation of a small Midwestern college town. So that was just a dry run, I'm guessing. Are we living in like a reality now, or is this just movies coming to life, or what's going on? Do they just make movies and predict the future, or are people getting ideas from it? Like this movie, 2022, a movie adaptation called White Noise, a story that of a train that derails, spills chemical, causing an airborne toxic event that forces an evacuation of a small Midwestern college town. And the people who this happened to were extras in that movie. Like, it was about that town. It was filmed in that town, I'm guessing. It was close to, anyway. On February 8th, the governor said the residents were permitted to return home after the air quality samples measured contaminants below levels of concern. The East Palestine water treatment plant said it had not seen adverse effects. Yeah, we know how good government officials and stuff are looking at adverse effects. We know how good they've been. They've got a track record over the last couple of years now that are really fantastic, looking at adverse effects and adverse reactions and things like that. Not hiding any data or anything like that too, which is great of them, which is fantastic. Norfolk Southern said it was a statement of its own. Experts and contractors were testing water from private wells throughout those homeowners were encouraged to use bottled water. Yeah, so they said, no, the water's fine, but use bottled water anyway. The air's fine, but we're still testing. And you're not allowed back into your homes. Evacuation order still in place, but everything's fine. There's been no reports of injuries or deaths in the derailment, but there have been many questions about how safe the area is. On social media news reports, some residents said that the fish and frogs were dying in local streams, which shared images of dead animals and said they smelled chemical odours around town. The arrest of a reporter during a news conference about the derailment led to online criticism of the law enforcement response. Residents have complained about headaches and feeling sick since the derailment. A federal lawsuit filed by 2 Pennsylvania residents seeking forced Norfolk Southern to set up health monitoring for residents of both states, the Associated Press reported, and to pay for related care with those in a 30-mile radius. How long will it take to get back to normal? The EPA informed the Norfolk Southern on February the 10th that it might be responsible for the costs associated with the cleanup. The agency did not offer details about whether the site may be considered completely returned to normal. The NTSB is still investigating the cause of the derailment. The Ohio Environmental Protection Agency is working on an assessment for a remediation plan. Initially, one of the most environmental spills, it is difficult to determine the exact amount of material that has been released into the air, water, and soil. James Lee, Media Relations Manager of the EPA Ohio, wrote in an email to CNN. The assessment phase will occur after the emergency is over, will help to determine the information. Now, if they had any idea, they know exactly how many chemicals are in each carriage. They know exactly what's in each carriage, obviously, so they can get a rough estimate of exactly what's been spilled, what's been burnt. But what the hell is going on? There was a movie made about this in or around this town, or so at least some of the people that lived in this town were in that movie, and they're arresting reporters for asking questions. The mainstream media is basically just ignoring this and using this UFO China balloon story that keeps popping up as a distraction, maybe. That could also just be a distraction because apparently in a couple of days the Epstein client list is coming out, which we will not be holding our breath for. We will see. But people in East Palestine here in Ohio are suffering majorly for this catastrophic failure from this company. I don't get, there is no logical explanation for why they would just blow it up or burn it off. You do not burn off toxic chemicals to get rid of them, especially when they said that they've like got all the excess and they've bundled it up. I'm guessing they pushed up some dirt and collected it in a sort of dam or holding area. You clean that shit up with a vac truck and a lot of gear. You don't blow it up and burn it off so you can get the train line moving again. I mean, we had a massive train derailment here in Western Australia, I think it was. It's about a 2-kilometre long train, I believe, where the driver had got off the train and the train had continued along without him, and they had no way to stop the train, so they derailed the train as the last ditch effort, because obviously it's a lot of money. But that train was only moving iron ore and dirt. It's basically just iron-rich dirt, and you know it's not going to cause a catastrophic failure and catastrophic environmental damage to do that. And this is going to be something that's going to be popping up in the news for the next 20 or 30 years. People are going to be having side effects of conditions or dying off. There'll be some sort of massive compensation thing over it. This is just one of those natural, man-made disasters that you see documentaries about in about 10 years' time. And hopefully the people in this little town in Ohio get the help they need, because this story is not being put out there as much as you'd think. Like, I don't know how much coverage they're doing here in Australia. There's basically none. Fair enough. It's on the other side of the world. But in America, there's people don't even know what's happening. And they've basically just let off a chemical nuclear weapon in this small town and just decimated the area with massive amounts of birds, animals, and fish dying off. And it's polluting the atmosphere. Where are all the greenies when this is happening? There's no greenies tying themselves to train tracks there, is there? The media's shutting it down. They're arresting people asking questions. It does not look good. Like, this company that has done this, they must have some control over the whole situation. They're really putting a bloody stop to anything getting out about it. And it's shocking that these massive companies and that can get away with this, detonating that amount of chemical in a small town. I mean, you can see just by that screenshot there that is really close to residents. I mean, a massive waterway just there. That's insane that they could even possibly think of lighting it on fire and setting it off. What were they hiding? Were they transporting something they weren't allowed to be, and they blew it up or burned it off to get rid of it? Who knows? But I wouldn't trust any of these people saying that it's all clean and safe to go back home or any of that crap, because you don't just walk into a place and smell chlorine and no, it's safe, it's fine, you might just smell it. If you can smell it, it's still in the friggin' air, isn't it? So hopefully these people get back to their homes and hopefully everyone's alright. But this is a massive disaster, and I would love to see what the hell the federal government's going to be doing about it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in another episode of Crossing the Line. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.